Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, how are you doing? My suitcase is on the ground. I just flew in from out of town, and boy, are my arms tired. We're focusing on the Roval this week at Charlotte. Let's break it down. This is Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look at low-owned plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and how this contest operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR that isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot them my way at BrandonCruzDFS on Twitter. Most importantly, take everything here with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's not my problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. Let's look at the Xfinity Series Roval. Let's focus on strategy, lineups that I think are going to be very popular, plays that are going to be very popular, and we'll start working our way through this sheet that I've had some feedback on, added some color to it, added some just things to be easier to follow with. So first off, since I was out of town, I just got back today. I was making this on my iPad, and boy, is that maddening. Like, I would kill for a computer when I was doing that. So yikes. Don't ever make sheets on an iPad. Like, that's annoying. Pricing is very soft this week. I mean, you can basically play whoever you want. There are multiple guys that can win this race. There are multiple plays that can win this race. So don't get caught up in the chalk, at least from my point of view. Like, the way that I'm looking at this is there's a lot of chalk, and I think this is a good race, or this is a race to where it's viable to pivot off of major chalk and not be killed by it. I'll get into that more in a minute. I imagine that most people are going to try and go with either like an AJ Allmendinger, Austin Cindric, Jesse Little line, or an AJ Allmendinger, Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe line, and blah, blah, blah. Because of that, I think Jesse Little is going to be a very popular play just because he's stupid cheap. He's starting second to last. There's not a whole lot of places you can go if you're really just stacking the true dominators and things of that nature. So, for example, I mean, if you went AJ Allmendinger, Cindric, and Little, which I think is going to be not the chalkiest pairing or group, but certainly a chalky pair that I want to try and stick off of. But those guys right there leave you $7,367 left, so you can play whoever you want. So pivoting or trying to get really different is what I'm going to really do this weekend. And I'll probably just go with a line that has AJ Allmendinger as my main dominator, and really pivot to other guys who aren't being looked at nearly as much, or guys that have a great chance of doing well. You have to look at this race in two factors. One, it's a road course. So if you're first off, it's a road course. Stages have just destroyed road course racing. There's no strategy in it. The only strategy is what pit cycle do you want to be on? Do you want to be with the field? Do you want to be off the field? Things of that nature. Two, we're at the Roval. Typically, we have a lot of instance here in the Xfinity or in the lower series, either on the first lap or there's contact here. Some people are going to not. I guarantee you, some people will not finish the first 4 laps of this race. So that's why I have this labeled as DNF factor, because I think there's people who have a higher chance of DNF than not. That's not necessarily start and park. That just they don't finish the race. That's why. Remember that my rankings here are based on my brain, based on how I perceive these drivers being. Chalk is, how I perceive chalk being. My interest on select guys. This isn't my exact interest, but people that I know would ask questions like, "Oh, are you interested in this guy?" I mean, that's why I have my interest there. And then projected finish ceiling, you already know that. Sponsored, things of that nature. You already know that. But I don't think you need Chase Briscoe. I don't think you need Austin Cindric. I don't foresee those guys being playable this weekend. I know that sounds crazy. Brandon, listen, you need to go back on that plane and fly into a cliff or something, because that is dumb. Look, there's a real chance of the chalk bust this week, and people are going to tilt left and right. Remember that you need to go to racefortheprize.com to get the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet that I use, and you need to be using as well during this time that the NFL is here. Other sports are here. You don't have time to be wasting your day away searching stupid, useless Xfinity Series stats and information. That's why you can get the sheet for October at racefortheprize.com. That's $20 for the month of October. Amazing data for this weekend, specifically for the road courses, because road course lap data can be found there. It's very easy to look at. It's all located there for all the races this year on the Xfinity Series. So if you're like, "Oh, I wonder how Michael Annett ran. I wonder what his track speed was at, or I wonder what his lap time, and where was he ranking at, at the Indy GP or at Road America or whatever." Well, you can find that very easily through the site. Why am I itching so much, man? I got like freaking chicken pox or something. What's going on over here? Anyway. Go to racefortheprize.com and get the sheet that I'm using and you need to be using as well. as I said, there's great pivots off of expected dominators. I don't see. I understand why Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric are chalk, but I think those are bad chalks, man. I'll get into that. I'll get into that in more detail. Also, I was going to talk about this when I get to Stephen Light, but there's a Twitter account that a lot of people use for DFS, and I use it as well. I think it's called Start and Park Racing or something like that. And he talks about, who's expected to start in park this weekend, who's expected to have a sponsor this weekend, blah, blah, blah. Now, he's a great source of information, but don't live and die by that account. Like, do your own research. And, he gives great information, but sometimes it's after the fact, after the race starts, which I know he's not a DFS account, but he gives information that is good to store in your mind or make note of. For example, nobody knew what type of truck Dawson Cram was going to run last week at Talladega. Well, through Start and Park and some other late research that I did after the fact, it was found that Dawson Cram had bought a truck from Jordan Anderson. What? Dude, are you crazy? That's an amazing truck. That's awesome for this guy. That's great. That was a good that was a pretty penny that he spent on it. I guarantee it wasn't cheap, but hey, man, that's awesome. Oh, wait, what? That truck was destroyed on the first lap? Oh, well, that kills Dawson Cram's. That kills any interest for me for Dawson Cram for the rest of the year, because I guarantee that truck was not cheap. But it's things of that nature. If you really want to be keyed in on things like that, you really have to do some research after the fact or during the race. Keep up with the race. If you really care about this type of stuff, keep up with the race. It'll help you out. Anyway, Cody Ware. Look, he's starting like I said earlier, I expect some people not even to finish 4 laps in this race. Cody Ware isn't terrible. I'm not too interested in. Jesse Little, like I said, he'll be chalk. My interest is medium because he really can't lose you any positions here and there. I don't see him crashing or not finishing this race. I really don't see that happening. I project him for a 20th place finish. He's starting in the back because Kobe Howard arca braked in the Talladega race last weekend on a restart and plowed into Ross Chastain. So this good car, what does it say? Yeah. He's going to be a popular punt. This good car for just a little starting second to last. We can do that. CJ Mclaughlin, or Mclaughlin, I don't really know how to pronounce names. I think there's going to be a lot of people looking around and a lot of, it's hard for me to determine where the pivots are. It's more based on pricing. That's where a lot of the chalks are going to be, because if you're paying up for 2 or 3 guys, you got to pay down for 2 or 3 guys. Basically, I think Mclaughlin gets kind of lost in that. I got a lot of interest in him. I think he finishes 23rd and got a ceiling of 20th. He could start in park. Not start in park. He could DNF. We could have a mechanical failure, but the BJ McLeod cars have always had a good setup here at road courses, especially this year. If you look at the lap data, I think he's a great pivot off of Chalky Little. That's mainly where my ownership lies, is just a pivot play off him. Kyle Weatherman, look, I haven't really read a whole lot of articles, or I really haven't listened to any videos yet this week because I've been busy. But I imagine that there's going to be articles and people saying, Kyle Weatherman, he's a great play for GPPs, or he's not a great play, but he's if you're playing GPPs, you got to play Kyle Weatherman. He could easily finish well, blah, blah, blah. Because of that, I don't like him based on the fact that he's going to be GPP chalk. I imagine nobody plays him in cash. We don't really care about cash here, but a lot of GPPs, I imagine if somebody's playing, 5 lineups, you're going to play one with Kyle Weatherman in it, because there's what if Kyle Weatherman, shows up and does well? I think there's a really high chance that this car has an issue, that this car has a mechanical failure. I am not on the Kyle Weatherman play at all. I just don't see it. I understand he's finished well in a couple of races this year, but this team has just been playing catch up, trying to get these cars working, trying to get things working out, and I don't expect a good showing. Same thing with Cody Vanderwall. I expect him to, he doesn't have a sponsor. And after really diving into some research, I didn't realize how much Jimmy Means used to park back in the day. In the 80s and 90s when he was the driver. That never occurred to me. But Jimmy Means has always started and parked if there's an opportunity to very easily just get a grocery getter going, which is what he used to call him. I just expect a poor showing from Cody Vanderwall. Greg Galding, I'm interested in. I don't really know how he's going to do in the race. I have him projected for 23rd right now. He's grading out as a C for me. Now, he might be chalky if you have a bunch of casuals going in and see how he's performed on like the super speedways and things of that nature, because he has a really high average DK points based on where he is on salary, and so people might see that when they're making lineups and be like, oh, I need Greg Golding here. So I need to try and figure out if people are really going to go to Greg Golding, if it's natural chalk ownership, or if people are like pushing him, or if people are just coming up to him when they're making their lineups. I got to figure that out. But he has his own sponsor. He's bringing his own sponsor money in for that 74 car. I'm pretty sure Mike Harmon still has him entered as his car, which let me just make sure here. Let me see. Yeah, I mean it's a Mike Harmon car, but it's not a Mike Harmon car. This has way more sponsorship money than than really anything they've ever had on there. I know their demo, like their sponsorship thing was like, oh, we're going to be racing this weekend. It was on a Gen 6 car, so always go there. But there could be ownership. I don't know. People are going to see him finishing well. Like I said, I like Greg Golding. We just got to see where the ownership is. Josh Bilicki is by far he's probably my favorite play on driver talent outside the top 30. He'll finish very well. I like him a lot. I think he finishes 18th this weekend. I don't think he starts in parks. He's got good money. I'm going to trust Josh Bilicki with my money. Joe Graff Jr., not interested. Just not going to talk about him. Preston Pardes. This is the type of guy. If you look at how he's ran at the road courses, he always gets there at the end of the race. He's always there. We always just have cautions that end up hurting how he does, or he gets moved through traffic because people are able to take tires and move through and all that type of stuff. But look, Preston Pardes is going to be there. If you look at his lap data, I believe that he has a car that can win this. He just needs things to go his way. And what are those things? Well, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, they need to either have bad days or have mistakes here and there. Preston Pardes is a guy that I believe could take advantage of that. Maybe not win the race, but he's going to have a great showing, starting 30th. This is a guy I think you need in your lineup. You can't say anything more about that. BJ McLeod interested. Stephen Light. The MBM really hasn't talked about a whole lot of things. I'm recording this Friday morning, and they race Saturday. That's usually when they talk about their sponsorship, so I can't even fill them in. I can't fill him or Timmy Hill in, just because I don't know if they're running or not. I don't know what the sponsors are. I want to see what cars are running. These are the guys that I can't even make a projection until I know what types of cars they're doing, which will be that morning. Austin Hill. I like Austin Hill a lot. Don't ask me why, but look, he's starting 27th. He's in a Hattori car. This is the only guy from NBA Motorsports that I actually like. I understand his showings have not been particularly well in the Xfinity Series this year, with mechanical issues, crashing, things of that nature. But starting 27th at a road course, Austin Hill's a great driver. We already know that. I don't have to really worry about it. Jeffrey Earnhardt, 26th. I don't like him. One, because he's in a generic JD Motorsports car. He's not on the Forever Lawn car, which is the sponsorship that he gained for the rest of the year on the 1.5 miles and at Martinsville. When he's using that sponsor, I'm really interested in him this year. In this situation, I'm not interested in him as a driver. Two, I'm not interested in him as a play this weekend. He's starting 26th. There's better plays out there. Ryan Vargas, the dude is a living meme. I don't know what else to say. I think he wrecks. I think something's gonna happen. He'll do something stupid. There's no way, man. I'm just not a huge Ryan Vargas fan at all. Jade Buford, also like, never mind. Yeah, Vargas is a living meme. Jay Buford. A guy that I think is going to be there at the end, a guy who can easily gain a lot of place differential. This is it's not a super speedway, but there's a lot of place differential in the back. And in a race that I am not focused on getting dominators, I'm not focused on laps led or fast laps. I'm going to aim heavily for place differential. Jay Buford, whatever. He's the guy I'm going to look at. He might be chalky. Can't really tell right now, but he has a good chance of being there at the end. Matt Mills not interested in. AJ Allmendinger. Now, going back to what I just said, it's a road course race. Not a whole lot of laps led. Not a lot of fast laps to go around. Why am I going to really try and aim for a dominator starting up in the front like Austin Cindric or like Chase Briscoe? Why? I'd much rather get the place differential from AJ Allmendinger. He has the chance to win this race and chance to lead, and he's starting 22nd. He's a much safer play than the other guys. I like AJ Allmendinger a ton. I don't think he'll be the highest owned. I think he'll probably be the second highest owned. That's why I have two here, because I think he'll probably be the second highest owned. I love him in this race. I don't think he gets destroyed. I don't think he wrecks or anything like that. Like, I think he's fine. Matt Snyder, granted as a B for me. He's ran very well in the road courses. I know he DNF'd, I think, at Road America, but for some reason, I mean, he's almost always been an instance at the road courses this season. He almost always ends up destroying the car or getting loose or spinning out at some point, and he still finishes pretty much 2/3 of the races. Like, that's, I mean, look, he grades out well. I think there's better plays, but if you're using Matt Snyder, I'm certainly not going to hate on you. He'll be low, and nobody ever plays Matt Snyder anymore. Certainly not at a road course. Timmy Hill, like I said, I got to see what he's running. Brett Moffatt, look, he ran poor at Indy, okay? His ownership's probably going to be low. Because of his poor ownership, I might look his way. We got to see how everything looks at. Jeremy Clements, a guy that I thought would be gone at the end of this year. I mean, when he lost his main sponsorship after 10 years, I was like, oh, there's no way he does well. There's no way. Well, look, he's found better sponsorships. If anything, his old sponsor leaving him was the best thing that's ever happened to him, because he's bringing in better sponsors. He's bringing in more money. I see him having a great showing. This is a situation where I think, yet again, a guy who can take advantage of people's misery or bad decisions here and there, just like NFL Showdown, which is something that I do better on NFL Showdown than regular NFL contests. But you got to make yourself a story, just like you got to do when you're making a Showdown lineup. If you're playing, a wide receiver as your captain, you need that guy's quarterback in as a flex play, and you imagine that the quarterback throws that wide receiver a lot, he gets a lot of points, blah, blah, blah. Same thing here. When I'm making a lineup, especially for like a road course, and I'm not going to play Austin Cindric or I'm not going to play Chase Briscoe, what is my story? Well, those guys struggle. People like Jeremy Clements, people like Alex LeBay, those guys can come in, take advantage, possibly win a race, possibly do well. Because of that, I like Jeremy Clements a lot. Tommy J. Martins, look, man, I think he wrecks. I don't think he finishes the race. Simple as that. Alex LeBay, I like him, man. He's, what the heck is this? See, like I said, I mean, that says Sue. Can't type on my iPad, man. I'm done. But yeah, I mean, he's been up front at the end of the races. He usually just ends up getting passed late because he's on old tires or something stupid happens. But I like Alex LeBay. Josh Williams, I'm not playing this dude. He wrecks. I guarantee you. If the people that I don't think finish the race cause a wreck, Tommy Joe Martins, Josh Williams, Cody Vanderwall, I mean, like, Kyle Weatherman, these are people that I'm just expecting to wreck here. Annette, not interested in. Herbst, probably not going to get there based on his their ownership, or not their ownership, their price. Kaz Gralla, a guy that I love here. I mean, I like AJ Allmendinger and Kaz Gralla more than I like Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe this weekend. For me, making one lineup, I fade chalk one way or another. I'm not interested in Chase Briscoe or Austin Cindric a ton. I mean, I made this, last night, day before. I'm probably not going to play Austin Cindric or Chase Briscoe because of that. I like Kaz Gralla. He's great pivot off of expected dominators. He's expensive, and if people are trying to fit in high-owned guys or high-priced guys, I imagine he's going to be the odd man out. Austin Cindric, look, I know I'm fading him, but I mean, Chase Briscoe, Austin, they have the best cars. They have the best chance to win this race. I'm just hoping they have mechanical issues or a career-ending injury for both these guys. That'd be fantastic because I'm not going to play them. But they grade out very well. Same thing with Justin Allgaier, Harrison Burton. I mean, you guys can see the projected finishes there. I'm certainly not going to even bother telling you to even look at Brandon Brown, Sieg, Chastain, Jones, Gregson. Haley, I wouldn't even bother looking there. The only reason you're playing Gregson is because you think he stays out and dominates the early part of the race and finishes inside the top 10, inside the top 7. That's about the only way I'd ever play Gregson there. But yeah, so that's how I would approach this race. That's how I would look at it. Let me know what you guys think. If you still like these types of videos, let me know. I like hearing the feedback. I like helping you guys out, or I like at least talking about it to where people listen and everything like that. We're aiming for the start of next year to really ramp stuff up on this channel. I got to get to 1,000 subscribers at some point. That's how I get monetized. If I can get there within the next 3 years, that'd be fantastic. I'm like 250 away. Let's try and get me there. And check me out at BrandonCruzDFS on Twitter. And that's about it, guys. Have a great day. Best of luck this weekend. And peace out, my homies, my home skillets, home dogs. You know what I mean.